Canada today announcing 25% reciprocal tariffs on some U.S. imports. Meantime, the president's 25% tariff on all steel and aluminum imports kicks off today. And as a result, our next guest company has paused all shipments to the U.S. Michael Garcia, the CEO of Algoma Steel, one of the largest steel producers in Canada, joins us this morning. Michael, thanks for the time. Appreciate it very much.
My pleasure.
Can you talk about the preparation you've made for this particular day?
Sure. Well, the pause in shipments is really temporary in nature. Yesterday, around midday, we picked up news that there may be a 50% tariff as of midnight last night or this morning. That changed by the end of the day to 25%, and there's talk about a further follow-on meeting happening on Thursday between Premier Ford and Mr. Lutnick. So I think for a matter of a couple days today and maybe tomorrow morning, we're going to pause shipments because really the tariff, when it's in place, is triggered when our product crosses the border. So we have the ability, without impacting our customers, to pause shipments. We have trucks rolling across the border every day. We're right here on the Canadian border in Sault Ste. Marie, Northern Ontario. So we'll pause until Thursday to have a better understanding of where we are.
We were at this desk about this time yesterday when that 50% number crossed the tape. It obviously threw our assignment desk and our production booths into a bit of a tizzy. Can you give viewers a sense of how it resonates at your desk and in your meeting rooms?
Sure. We were literally in a meeting reviewing our forecast for the remainder of 2025. We had several different scenarios in place with 25% tariff, 50% tariff, 0% tariff, and we were discussing, the different scenarios and what we would need to do as a company to react. And we went from our base case being 25% tariff and a lot of discussion about that to, okay, now our base case is 50% tariff. And this was happening real time as somebody saw the tweet. And so that changed the tenor of the conversation for sure.
Can you explain your calculus behind pausing the shipments as opposed to maybe passing through higher costs to customers or eating a bit on the margins? I'm just curious how the thinking went into the decision to pause.
Well, it's really a reflection of how dynamic and uncertain the situation is. There's a tremendous amount of difference between a 0, 25, or 50% tariff. And we did this last week when the initial 25% tariff was in place. We started hearing different reports that, there's discussions happening. We saw the news. I think it happened with Mexico first, that the 25% tariff was going to be delayed until April 2nd, or maybe it was the automotive sector tariff that was going to be delayed till April 2nd. So we paused, I believe, on Wednesday and Thursday. And then by Thursday, we had news that the Canadian tariffs were also paused if you were compliant with the 2019 USMCA agreement, which we are. And so by pausing shipments for a day, any ton of steel that crossed the border, that didn't cross the border when a 25% tariff was in place, avoided a 25% tariff. When if you think about a ton of steel, if your revenue on that is $1,000, that's $250 that we avoided, and you multiply that by thousands of tons, that's a lot of money. So this is what we've found ourselves doing in the last couple of weeks.
Michael, I guess the question would be, if the 25% remains in place for some time, what does it do, let's say, in market share terms? Is there capacity domestically in the U.S. to make up the gap for the higher cost imports? Or is it really just going to be about who shares the cost and killing overall demand at a higher price?
Well, when you're talking about steel flows between U.S. and Canada, it's really not a significant part of the market share. I think the U.S. consumption of steel is around 119 million tons. The integrated market for steel in between Canada and the U.S., it's very integrated. So we have raw materials like iron ore and coal and scrap metal that flows across the Canadian-U.S. border to steel producers on both sides of the border. The Canadian steel producers ship about 6.5 million tons of steel into the U.S., and U.S. steel producers ship about 3.5 million tons from the U.S. into Canada. and we ship it to customers that then make products like durable goods and automobiles and oil country pipeline tube, and that then gets shipped across the border. So it's very integrated. I don't think there's any evidence that since free trade has been in place for steel between Canada and the U.S. for several decades, that this amount of steel flowing back and forth and the net flows has killed U.S. industry or damaged workers or damaged the manufacturing sector. In fact, I think there's a lot of evidence that it's benefited the supply chain in both countries over that time period.
Hey, finally, Michael, you seem like a pretty candid type. What to you is a doomsday scenario, at least regarding U.S.-Canada trade?
Well, a very significant and concerning scenario is a 25% tariff in place for a length of time with certainty that it's going to be in place and no substantive conversations going on around finding if there are, that problems or issues with the free trade that I described that's been in place for several decades. I would hope that the people come to the table and have a fulsome discussion around improving or tweaking or addressing specific issues with that free trade, like happened in 2019 and with the signing of the USMCA agreement, which I believe President Trump called the best trade agreement ever.
Yes.
But if 25% is in place for a long time, that's a serious concern to companies like Algoma Steel.
Michael, appreciate it. Good context for viewers who are having trouble just keeping up. Thanks very much, Michael Garcia.